Hey, what's up, guys? It's Tibbs back with another class deep dive. This time, a class that has been requested time after time, over and over again, and that is the Rogue class. And today, I am joined by LMGD, one of the best rogues in the world, a great PvP rogue and a great PvE rogue. And as you guys will see in this video, he walks us through the Rogue class in a PvE environment very, very thoroughly. So, without further ado, please help me welcome LMGD, and I'll see you guys soon. Good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are doing very, very well. Today is a very, very special day. As I said before, talking with tips, our class deep dives are back today with a very special guest, my friend LMGD, who is with us right now. Cool tier. And by the way, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime. And everybody else, thank you so much. For today, alerts are going to be disabled, only because I want to give as much respect to the guest as possible. But thank you so much in advance to all of the subs, all of the donations, if we get any today, all the bits. I really, really appreciate it. LMGD, how are you doing today, man?
Hello, Tips. Hello, everyone. I'm doing fine. What about you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. For those of you guys who don't know who LMGD is, LMGD is a great, great rogue player from the vanilla scene. He is in the guild Apes. If you guys, I'm sure you guys have heard of Apes before. He's also multi-time rank 14, rank 13 mage as well. He is the longest rank 1 DPS ranking holder, so very, very top parser in the PvE scene. He was the raid leader for one of the best guilds in the world. You raid led for Progress, right, LMGD?
Yeah.
Awesome. So you've been in both Apes and Progress.
Yeah, I was in Progress first, and then I left for Apes.
Awesome, awesome. So he's been on both sides of the fence, done a lot of PvP, done a lot of PvE, and holds multiple records for Molten Core and BWL speedruns on private servers. Very, very experienced player. Very, very glad we were able to meet you here today. And of course, a big shout out to Tribe for setting this whole thing up between us. Very much appreciate it. LMGD.
Yep.
Before we go ahead and get started, I just wanted to ask you real quick. Where are you from? If you don't mind me asking. I
I'm
know
from
where
Russia,
you're from.
bro.
You're from Russia. I've got to say, and we said I told you this a little bit before. When I heard you talk, I did not think you were from Russia at all. Your accent is like you have very, very good English. I guess I'm trying to say.
Yeah, thanks.
No
Very
problem.
pleased to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a testament to how much you've been playing with vast majority of different players on different servers. Before we just get started into going to everything about the rogue class, tell me a little bit about rogues. Why do you enjoy playing rogues?
Well, first of all, it's a sneaky class, and when we all start playing the game, we are like pretty young, and we're not enjoying the sneaky rogue gameplay. It's pretty fun. But in vanilla, rogues are pretty good in PvP, pretty good in PvE. It's a very fun gameplay, very complicated. It's very hard to play it in PvP, and yeah, I don't know. The only boring stuff about Rogue is that when you're ranking, you have to defend some flags a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still fun versus the premates. So yeah, a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun playing Rogue.
Awesome, awesome. Well, rogues, as a warrior, I like going up against rogues at the end game, but I'm not going to lie, during leveling, it's very, 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 very annoying to deal with rogues. Out of
Yeah.
curiosity, those in the chat right now, who here in the chat is looking forward to playing a rogue in Classic WoW, or is at least considering playing a rogue in Classic WoW? I know Visca Crisley, you want to play rogue. I want to see who else wants to play rogue. Hopefully, we can get as many people educated on rogues as possible today. But LMGD, you currently play a mage, I think, right?
Yeah, on the current server, I play Mage.
Very interesting. So usually the people, I mean, I've been told that classes in WoW match personalities usually. Usually people that play melee tend to play like most melee classes and stuff like that. What makes you interested in mage too?
I don't really know. I mean, maybe it's world PvP. World PvP as a mage is a lot of fun. Coming into BRM and having like 200 horde staying and waiting and trying to kill you to get rid of your debuffs. That's a lot of fun. Just world PvP. And I wanted to try Mage before the Classic, so I understand better what I want to play when the actual Classic comes out. But on retail, I was playing only healers.
Only healers. Oh wow! So in
Yeah,
retail WoW, you only play healers.
yeah, played healers before I started playing private servers. Right now on retail, I have a rogue too. So,
Okay,
but
very
before
interesting.
that, for 12 years straight, I was pretty much playing Resto Druid, and that's my retail main class.
Oh wow! I actually had no idea. So a very diverse array of specialties. You heal, you melee DPS, you caster DPS. Very interesting perspective, and I can see why you are a raid leader now, having all those different perspectives. Um, with somebody with so much, because you are a raid leader, because you have all this different experience, and you've raid led for progress. Let's kind of just jump right into it and talk a little bit about rogue strengths and PVE. Now, for those of you guys that have seen my class DPS rankings, you will know that rogues are one of the strongest melee DPS class in raids. LMGD, when you're setting up a raid group, how many rogues do you typically bring to a raid, and what are the strengths that you seek to utilize in these raids for rogues?
Um, Basically, when you raid in vanilla, it's 40 people in the raid, right? And dependent on what your guild goals are, you pick the raid setup. So, just for example, if you want to rush Molten Core speedruns or PVL speedruns, you don't need that many casters, right? So you can bring many rogues, many warriors, and just kill all the bosses really quick, like all the trash really quick. Because the casters, their strength are, I mean, they're shining like after ZG patch. Let me put it like this. So yeah, at the start, if you're a hardcore guild and you want to clear BVL and Molten Core as fast as possible, you usually bring like 5, 6, 7 rogues.
So 5, 6, or 7 rogues in a raid. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the more 5, 6, 7. That's actually quite a bit of rogues. And again, guys, rogues are just a very, very strong PVE class. Not only strong, but also very, very good in PvP. But I don't really want to talk about too much PvP right now. Right now, what I want to focus on is the first thing we do when we start playing World of Warcraft, because I know a lot of you guys that are considering playing rogues out there want to learn more about the leveling. And as much as we want to talk about raiding, let's talk about the journey to raiding first and foremost. So, first thing we do when we start playing a rogue class is we start leveling. But before we even start leveling, we have to create a class, we have to create a race. Very briefly, and I don't want to do like a comprehensive race overview because I think everybody's very familiar with the vanilla races. But both on Alliance and Horde side, LMGD, if you were going Alliance, if you were going Horde, which class would you pick as Rogue and why? I'm sorry, which race?
Which race? Okay. Basically, if your main goal is to PvE, the best pick for Alliance is Human, and the
Well,
best pick for Horde is either Orc or Troll.
why Human, why Orc or Troll?
Well, Human race has the +5 sword skill and mace skill, so that helps a lot. That gives you pretty much a lot of DPS, and no other races on Alliance can provide you that DPS increase in the raids. Basically, that's it about Human.
Okay. And Orcs and Trolls in particular?
Orcs have an ability to increase their attack power for a short period of time, and Trolls have an ability to increase their haste for a short period of time. But if you're playing Horde, I would I would never go Troll because Orc is equal amount of DPS in the raids, but in PvP it's pretty much the best race to the Rogue in vanilla.
Yeah, definitely. So all those undead rogues out there, they're doing it wrong or what?
No. Undead is pretty good for Rogue too, especially for TBC. But in vanilla, I would say Orc for PvP is superior. Yeah.
Absolutely. And PvE is definitely a big part of it. Also, PvP orcs obviously have that stun resist, which makes them very potent no matter what race, no matter what class you're playing. Very, very strong. And now that we've selected our races, we said humans for Alliance side, most likely orcs for Horde side. It's time to get leveling, and as we level up, obviously, we come across a variety of talents. So before we talk about the talent breakdown here, and I've got the Wowhead, classic.wowhead.com talent calculator in the background if you guys want to follow along. I'll link it in the chat real quick if you guys are interested in following along with us. But before we get into the talent breakdown, let's just talk about basic leveling and kind of some strategies. So you're a rogue right now. What do you prioritize more while leveling? Do you prioritize quests or do you prioritize grinding? And before I continue, guys, I want to let you guys know, LMGD, you were actually the third fastest leveler on Northdale. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I didn't try to go fast.
Didn't try to go fast, and he was the third fastest leveler in the world on Northdale. So somebody with a lot of leveling experience in particular too. Very, very broad skill set. That's one of the reasons why I'm really happy you're on today. You've done so much from PvE, PvP, and you're a very, very fast leveler. As a rogue, how do you approach leveling? Do you target quests more? Do you grind more? Like, how do you go about it?
Well, it all depends on the server, and on actual classic WoW, it depends on which rates of the quest experience we're gonna get. Because at the start of vanilla, it was about 40 to 35% less experience that you were getting from the quests.
Mm-hmm.
So it was harder to quest. It was not enough quests to level at all. So you would have to grind at least 10 levels, like from 1 to 60. Let's say each 10 levels, you have to grind like 2 levels all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's the patch 1.12, then there are enough quests to level only by questing. So questing is pretty much faster than grinding for the rogue. So questing is pretty much the best thing you can do.
Okay, so prioritizing questing as a rogue. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So let's say right now I'm a rogue. I'm out there in the world. I'm doing some kill quest. I have an objective. I have to kill. Let's see, what's a popular kill quest? Because I think it was Nixium who brought it up yesterday on the Classic Cast, killing the Elder Mistvale gorillas and Stranglethorn Vale for the gorilla sinew. What's the typical rotation that I open up with on these mobs? What's the fastest, most efficient way to kill mobs? Do I chain pull? Can you pull 2 at a time as a rogue, or is it just kind of 1 at a time?
Basically, it all depends on your build. If you are leveling with the fastest leveling build, or if you are leveling with the semi-ish PvP build. With the spec that is that you're using for the fastest leveling, you're pretty much using only Sinister Strike and Eviscerate. I pretty much never slice and dice, only if the mobs are super fat. Either they have a lot of armor or a lot of HP, then you can slice and dice like 1 or 2 combo points. But basically, most of the mobs, you just go in, you use 5 Sinister Strikes, and you just eviscerate. Nothing complicated.
Nothing, just straight up 5 Sinister Strikes and Eviscerate. That's about it.
Yeah, pretty much. But if you are leveling in PvP spec, then you should open with Cheap Shot, because it will give you a lot of combo points instantly. It will stun the mob. He will be stunned for like 3-4 seconds, and you're gonna lose less HP.
Yeah, and obviously losing HP is very, very detrimental in vanilla. A lot of downtime in vanilla, a lot of eating, a lot of drinking, a lot of time wasted, especially with melee classes. Where would you rank rogues, LMGD, on the list of fastest or slowest classes to level? Where would you rank rogues on leveling speed?
I would rank it pretty bad. Well, if we compare it to, let's say, warriors.
Mm-hmm.
So the best warriors levelers, what they can do is they can put a harm string and then kite them up for like 3 seconds for auto swing, and don't lose any HP while they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But as a rogue, you can't do that at all, because your swing timers, are pretty fast. So you can't really go out, go in all the time. So you're just face tanking the mob. So you're going to lose a lot of HP. And I would say the real experienced warrior will always level faster than a rogue. So I would place a rogue on like number 7. He only pretty much like Rogue can only level faster than a Paladin. Paladin is pretty much the worst class. So
It,
Rogue is pretty tough, yeah.
so you would actually put warriors above rogues in leveling speed. It would go warrior, rogue, paladin for you.
Yeah, only if Warrior is a really good player who is optimizing everything, who is kiting with the harm string, and who is doing everything right. Yeah.
It's funny. I've wanted to say that for a long time, but I've always been really, really scared. Warriors have this. There's this like preconceived notion that they're the slowest levelers, and while I might agree up until level 30, once you get that sweeping strikes, things change big time. But this is not a warrior class deep dive. This is a rogue class deep dive. We could talk about warriors all day. And because we're talking about leveling, because we're talking about all these different builds, walk me through the best rogue build right now. Again, I've got the talent calculator open behind me. Walk me through. If I'm leveling, if I just hit level 10, moving forward, how do I spec as a rogue in order to maximize my leveling speed?
Right. Basically, the first 2 points are going into assassination. Remers. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Yeah,
It's
wrong.
basically increased crit after you kill a mob for your sinister strike. You go
Okay.
2 points into there.
Got you. Okay.
All right. After that, we're going combat all the way, and first of all is going to be improved sinister strike.
Interesting. So 2 points in assassination, but then we're going right back to combat.
Yeah.
All right, sweet, sweet. And that reduces the energy cost of your Sinister Strike by 5. You said Sinister Strike is very, very important. While you're leveling, you're just going to be spamming it basically before an Eviscerate. Is there any point of using like a 4-point Eviscerate, or should you always wait for 5 points while leveling?
Well, it depends of the HP of the mob. Sometimes you have to use only 3 sinisters, and then the mob will die from eviscerate. It all depends. It all depends on your weapon, on your crits. But basically, like while leveling, eviscerate pretty much does like 25% of the mob HP. So if the mob is like 25% HP, you should start thinking about eviscerating him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Got you. And a very, very quick thing. I noticed Ludosynthetic in the chat asked a question for you. I'm going to ask this question. And
Sure.
just so you guys know, before we finish up today, we are going to do a complete open Q&A for LMGD. So any questions you guys have about rogues, we'll answer all those questions at the end of the show. But because I've seen this question come up time and time again, I'm very curious what your answer is. LMGD, do you think front stabbing builds will be a thing in Classic, or do you think front stabbing is just kind of a bug that's available on private servers?
Well,
I
you
guess
know
what is
that
front stabbing? First and foremost, what is front stabbing, if you don't mind?
front stabbing is when you go like through the mob and then you can backstab him, even though it's an NPC. He's always facing you, but you still can backstab him.
Okay, so it's basically backstabbing mobs while you're still facing them, while you're in front of them instead of behind them.
Yeah, the mobs in vanilla. If you watched like Monkey News stream while he was playing demo, you noticed that the mobs on actual demo on classic, they move like 60 FPS, and the mobs on classic they move like 5 FPS. So they move the same way, but the mobs on actual demo, what we have right now, they move faster. So I don't think it's going to be possible to go behind the mob before the mob turns, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like you don't think there's going to be any front stabbing in Classic.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Yeah, I've seen a lot of rogue guides talk about front stabbing as leveling builds and stuff. I always assumed that was something we wouldn't get in Classic. So to answer your question, Ludosynthetic, I think that it's probably something that you won't see in Classic WoW. But again, guys, if you have more questions, we'll get to them at the very end. We'll do an open Q&A for LMGD. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and continue this leveling build. So I've got 2 points into improved Sinister Strike. Where do I go from here?
After that, it depends how long are you not sleeping the first day. So if you're gonna if you're gonna have any kind of PvP or any kind of troubles with the gear or tagging the most, because gouge is, it might sound really crazy, but gouge is one of the best abilities in the game to tag the mob,
Okay.
because it's faster than sinister strike. Sinister strike has some delay before it deals damage, but gouge is instant damage. So basically when we farm like Devil Swords, you know, in Devil Sword Mafia, we use Gouge to tag the Devil Swords.
Ah, okay. I didn't know that at all. So Gouge is like your fastest tagging ability as a rogue, even faster than
Pretty
Sinister
much.
Strike.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Why is that? Do you know by any chance? It's just like how it's built,
Well,
or
on private servers at least, Sinister Strike has some kind of delay. Even if you have like 1 MS, it's still gonna hit like at least 0.1 second after you cast it for some reason. So that's a long time, and all the priests, all the mages are gonna tag the mob if that's your delay. So Gauch is the best ability to tag the mobs, but if you are ahead of the Zerg, you should go for dodge chance. So 3 points there.
okay? So again, it depends on how much you're not sleeping on day one.
Yeah.
How long do you usually go on day one of a server launch? And actually, everybody in chat right now, if you don't mind me asking you, how long are you guys planning to stay up on launch day for Classic WoW? But LMGD, how about you? How long do you stay up on day one?
Well, the problem is that on this server I was leveling with 5-man group up till level 47.
Hmm.
So I couldn't really rely only like I can't really stay up as much as I want. Like it's 5 people leveling with me, so I have to consider them wanting to sleep. Basically, we did something about 36 hours first day.
Oh my god, 36 hours. Wow, wow. And I see some people typing 40 hours right now in the chat too. Somebody says 60 hours in a row. Have you ever done a 60-hour gaming session, LMGD?
No, I've never done that.
Yeah, pretty sure I would die. But all right, so let's assume let's assume that we do get caught in the Zerg, only because classic WoW it's going to be very unpredictable. We might get caught in a position where we're stuck in a server queue or something
Yeah.
like that. I think the vast majority of people will be caught up in that Zerg. So let's go ahead and put the points into Gouge. 3 points into Gouge, right?
Yeah, so 3 points into Gouge will improve your like ability to PvP versus players. It's a long CC. You're gonna have time to regen your energy, and that's pretty much the only good ability in combat talents for PvP,
Okay.
at least at the start.
Got you, got you. So we got some PvP utility. Now we've opened up the second row. Do we go back into lightning reflexes for the dodge chance, or do we continue?
No, we go 5 into precision, the hit chance.
Okay, there you go. Increases your hit chance to hit with melee weapons by 5%. All right. Obviously, more hit means more DPS, and we got these 5 points. What next?
Pretty much after that, again, it depends if you're in the Zerg or if you're above the Zerg. So if I'm ahead of the Zerg, I'm usually going for improved sprint. But for those who are not going to level fast, it's better to go for a parry chance first. So 5 points into deflection, and
Okay.
then into riposte, or I don't know how to pronounce that.
Yeah, riposte.
That's
Okay.
a really great ability. Will increase your DPS. It costs I think only 35 energy. I'm not sure, and it deals a lot of damage. And usually, if you have the semi luck, you're gonna use like at least 1 per mob. So that's really great ability.
Okay, only a 6-second cooldown, too. A strike that becomes active after parrying an opponent's attack. This attack deals 150% weapon damage and disarms the target for 6 seconds. Okay, very, very strong. Right now, we are level 27. From here, where do we go?
After that, we go into dual wield specialization for offhand. We go 5 points into there. So plus 50% damage for your offhand weapon.
All right, perfect. And then?
Hmm?
Oh, and then I'm saying, and then?
Oh, and then you go Blade Flurry. So you can pull pretty much 2-3 mobs at the same time when you have it up. After
Okay.
that, you go to whatever specialization. Like it depends what weapons you have. If you are leveling pretty slow, so let's say not in top 20 levels of the server, you're going to be able to do the dungeon quests. If you're able to do the dungeon quests, and you should, you're going for sword spec, and you're going to have swords from dungeons. So that's basically where we put our talent points.
Okay. And speaking of swords and dungeons, I know that rogues, just like warriors, that they have certain weapon milestones that they try to pick up while leveling. Let's talk about those right now. What are some quests or some items that you try to make sure you get while you're leveling? So, like for example, I'll just give you an example for warriors. For warriors, if you're on horde side, you try to get a crescent staff from Welling Caverns. You get whirlwind axe if you can. You try to get an executioner's cleaver. If not, you go into Oldamon. You get one of the two weapons at the end. What are like the target weapons or quest rewards that rogues try to get every single time you're leveling through?
Basically, the one of the best swords you can get as Alliance. Let's talk about Alliance first. Is Vanquisher's sword. It's from RFD from the quest, and that's basically what you have to do 100% if you want to level fast.
Vanquisher's sword from RFD.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you just have to kill the final boss in RFD for it, right? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's like the Lich, the Frost boss.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, perfect. And
And
what?
then for Alliance, when you're level 45, you go for Trash Blade. Trash Blade is a really good sword. It's almost pre-rate best sword for rogues. So if you have that, you can go with Molten Core even with that weapon.
Oh wow! So you can pick up Thrash Blade, and you can do Molten Core with Thrash Blade as a rogue.
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome, awesome, and you get that around level 45. Okay, so sword specialization, it gives you a 5% chance to get an extra attack on the same target after dealing damage with your sword. Works very, very well with Vanquisher Sword and Thrash Blade, two weapons that you can get from quests while you're leveling. Makes it very, very easy to level up as a rogue. You have your weapons pretty much cut out for you. But from here on out, from a talent perspective, where do we go from here?
Well, at this point, some rogues are going to Assassination all the way, but I prefer getting Adrenaline Rush so I can do more damage in dungeons, so I can pull big packs of mobs with the Blade Flurry, and so I can do all the hard quests solo. So basically, we go into Weapon Expertise, 2 points there,
Mm-hmm.
then 1 point into Aggression, Adrenaline Rush first, and then 2 points into Aggression.
Okay. So you try to seize up Adrenaline Rush as soon as possible. The earliest you can get it is level 42 because, again, we put those 2 points into Remorseless
Yeah.
Attacks into the Assassination Tree. Adrenaline Rush is a big 5-minute cooldown, increases your energy regen rate by 100% for 15 seconds. And you said you do this because for the harder quests, the more group-oriented quests, you like to have big cooldowns in order to solo these.
Yeah, even if you're leveling without doing some hard quests, you just press it on cooldown, it will increase your leveling speed.
Okay, got you, got you. All right, sweet. So, gonna go back with the 2 points in aggression, and now we've pretty much filled up the entirety of the combat tree. Do we go back into combat? Do we go back into assassination? Where
We
do we
go
go
into
from here?
Assassination now,
Okay,
and we put 3 points into increased damage over Eviscerate.
all right,
So that will allow you to use less common points if needed, or it will just increase the damage over your Eviscerate to kill the mobs as a finisher.
perfect, perfect. Let's see,
After that, we go for a crit.
all 5 points into
5%
malice.
crit. Yeah,
Okay,
all 5 points.
you know, just looking at these talents right now, I never noticed this, but it feels like rogues. It feels like rogues have very good talents. Like there's not a single talent that we've selected so far that feels like a throwaway talent. Like warriors, for example, like improved rend is kind of garbage. What else? Like improved heroic strike. It seems like rogues get really good talent selection. But sorry, that's just completely off topic. So from here we've got 8 talent points left.
Basically, after that, you go for Relentless Strikes. That will give you 25 energy every time you use a 5 common point Eviscerate.
Okay, there it is.
And after that, you pretty much go for Vitality.
Okay,
All 5 points there.
increases the critical strength, a damage bonus of your Cinder Strike, Gouge, etc. by 30%. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have 2 points left. Are these flexible, or do we usually go into something specific here?
The last 2 points, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
We go into Ruthlessness, the assassination talent. So the
Ruthlessness.
last 2 combo points go there, but that's the build pretty much for almost no PvP at all. So we don't take improved sprint, we don't take like the reduced cooldown of sprint evasion. If you're planning to PvP a lot, then you just don't go for parry, you don't go for riposte, and you just go for improved sprint and the improved cooldowns. So it all depends. Like all the points here, it all depends of when you like what are you leveling, how many time do you have, if you're gonna PvP, and like a lot of factors that can matter.
Got you. Got you. Okay, perfect. And this is like you said, this leveling build is kind of designed more or less for the average player that's kind of stuck in the Zerg, or just falls behind. Even a good player can get stuck in the Zerg depending on the situation on classic launch.
Yeah.
Things are going to be very, very unpredictable. But guys, if you guys would like a copy of this spec, I'm going to link it in the chat right now. This is LMGD's leveling spec for rogues as you're leveling up from 1 to 60. But obviously, at some point, you hit level 60. And we're going to talk about the talent build for level 60 for rating in particular. But before we do that, now that we hit level 60 LMGD as a rogue, what is your first priority list? What are you doing the second you hit level 60 as a rogue in vanilla to prepare yourself for endgame content?
Well, if you are a hardcore player, or if you're trying to be like basically the main point after you get level 60 is to farm as much gold as you can. Because
Mhm.
if you're gonna rank, if you're gonna go to Molten Core, if you're gonna do all these things, Epic Mount, everything, it all requires gold. So gold is basically everything we need after we get 60.
Gold is king.
Yeah.
And like you actually brought it up, so I want to address it. Obviously, different players will be doing different things depending on how seriously they want to take the game. So I want to ask chat right now, guys. Would you like us to talk more about what the average player would do once they hit level 60, or do you want to talk about what the most hardcore players would do, the most efficient players would do? Do you guys want to hear more on the hardcore side or the casual side? LMGD, because you're here, because you're a very hardcore player, you're very experienced, and it sounds like people want the hardcore. All right, there we go, there we go. All right, the people have spoken. What about the hardcore, try-hard, no-lifers, the degenerates like us? What should we be doing once we hit level 60 in vanilla?
Well, if we talk about hardcore, let's say you level up pretty fast, at least in first 100 people that level to 60.
Mm-hmm.
There are two ways to go. So the first way is you farm Devil Source, and the second way you farm Lotuses. So if you farm Devil Source, you pretty much need +1, because to kill the Devil Source solo as rogue, you need blind, bandages, and stuff like that. And with the green gear from leveling, it will be pretty tough. So yeah, you need +1, and you just go farm Devil Source for 3-4 days straight. Don't farm your pre-biz, don't do anything, just farm gold.
All right, and when you
So
when you say
basically,
+1, I'm sorry. When you say +1, you mean like a friend, right? Bring somebody with you to help you.
yeah, I mean, any class, any friend, just a guy who wants to farm with you.
Okay, so I just hit level 60. I make a beeline to Ngoro Crater with my leveling buddy. I say, we're just grinding Devil Swords. We're getting the leathers. That's all we're doing right now for the next 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it depends how much gold you need. If you are in a super hardcore guild, but you are not planning to rank, that means you don't need as much gold as others do, because if you're ranking, you're wasting at least 1k gold per week only by buying potions, consumables. So if
Okay.
you're not ranking, you don't have to farm as much as I said. But what I did on the last server, I farmed about 400 leathers in 2 days. I farmed only 2 days, and that was a mistake. And that was like about 8k gold.
You made 8K gold in 2 days.
Yeah. It's not
Woo!
instant gold. That's the problem. It's not instant gold. It's the gold that you have to craft sets first, and then you have to sell them. And considering you're going to be one of the first guys who leveled up, you are not going to be able to sell everything instantly.
Holy crap! You're right. You're technically right. You're technically right. So it's 8K gold in value of Devil Sword leather.
Yeah.
Um. Okay. So sorry. Okay. So you get 400 Devil Sword leathers. What do you do with them? Do you just wait? You hold on to them, or do you start crafting the items? Do you start crafting the
Well,
leggings?
400 is a mistake. You should go for at least 800 if you're planning to rank.
Shoot.
So basically, at least like spend at least a week. I would say a good week of farming Devil Swords, because if you are one of the most hardcore players, you're probably not gonna go Molten Core really fast anyway, because there are no guild that are gonna have all the, like, let's say 50 players to level up as fast as you did. So if you were one of the first, you have that week for sure, so you don't have to farm your period biz instantly. And of course, it's not going to be only you farming Devil Source, so you can farm your period biz and consumables in between, like when
Absolutely.
other people are farming.
Craftermain brings up a very good point in the chat. He says, I think he's talking about server population. So obviously, Devil Sword leather is a very valuable resource because it makes the gauntlets and the leggings, and those are like best in slot pre-raid for a bunch of different classes. But is there a possibility come Classic WoW? Let's say they go with the original Blizz-like population numbers, 3,000 population cap. Is there a possibility that Devil Sword is just not as valuable because there's not as many people demanding it? What do you think?
I think they're going to be more cheap if it's only 3k pop, but I think it's still the best gold per hour you can get.
Okay, best gold per hour you can get at level 60. Okay. Um, and also, you mentioned ranking. So for Classic WoW, we've been told that the first content release will not have the honor system or the battlegrounds. I think we're getting at the second content release. So
Yeah.
I guess we're speaking on in the mindset of at launch the first 3-4 months there's no battleground. So I just wanted to let you know just to keep that in mind as we're going through this. Um, so 2 weeks. You said spend a week or 2 weeks grinding Devil Sword.
Yeah, like 1 week should be enough.
Okay. So I just spent 1 week grinding Devil Sword. I've got like 800 leathers. What do I do next?
After that, you can start farming your period biz, preparing for Molten Core, get all your consumables, and that's pretty much all you do. And try to buy Epic Mount too.
Okay, so right like after Devil Sword, try to buy Epic Mount, go pre-raid bis and consumables.
Yeah, Epic Mount is priority number one, because you're gonna have to fight for all the spots. You're gonna have to fight in BRM. You're gonna have to fight for Devil Source. So you gotta have Epic Mount.
Okay. Um now there's so many ways we could dovetail this, but I want to ask you specifically about pre-raid bis.
Hmm.
Certain classes, in particular, there are certain raids that you just always do. Like, you're going to do UBRS for like True Strike and stuff like that. Are there any dungeons in particular that you try to target as a rogue, like right after you're done with your Devil Sword farming? Like, are there any dungeons that you spam right away? How much of Rogue's gear, like, how much questing gear can you take with you into Molten Core? Like, how much time do you have to spend farming dungeons basically and doing quests for pre-raid bis?
If we're gonna see the Molten Core as it is on the private servers, you can go with full green items. You don't need to have any gear. If you have 40 people, if you have consumables, you don't need to have any gear.
Okay, that's very interesting. So I'm a fresh 60. I don't need any gear as a rogue so long as I have Thrash Blade and like a Vanquisher sword or something. I can go right into Molten Core. Any resistance gear, anything like that, I need to be worried about.
No, if your guild is experienced, if you have experienced players, if you all know how to do Molten Core, I don't think you need a lot of gear. You
Uh,
basically, of course, you're gonna go dungeons before the Molten Core for sure. You're gonna get some gear, but I think that if we're gonna put like 40 players who cleared Molten Core at least like 20 times, they will be able to do Molten Core with full green items with a bit of wiping.
okay. Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. So And I feel like rogues, they are a class that scales very well with gear, but I feel like they do a lot of damage even without gear. Is that a fair assessment, or am I totally off?
It's all about hit. If you have enough hit, everything else scales not that well. So hit is the most important part.
Okay, hit is the most important part. So then let's talk about hit and let's talk about gear. Before we get into gear, just because we have the talent calculator opened up, I'm going to go ahead and reset this talent calculator, and I want to start back now at the level 60 rating build. Is there a quick way to reset this? Yeah, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so we just finished. We finished the leveling build. We got to level 60. We've got our Devil Sword ready, set for the Molten Core. We need to respec now. What is the kind of cookie cutter? And you've told me there's several builds that rogues can go. But what is kind of the most popular cookie cutter build for rogues to go in raids? And actually, if there's variants, let me know. I mean, if there's multiple builds, let's do the multiple builds. Guys, actually in the chat right now, would you guys like to see just one build for raiding? Or would you guys like to see all the variances? We'll hear back from the chat, but let's go into the first one right now.
Well, the first build is the main build, which are most rogues are using. 2 points improved Sinister Strike. 4 points into dodge chance.
Okay.
5 points into hit, precision.
All right.
2 into improved sprint. I just want to clarify, this is Molten Core, not PVL. 2 points into improved cooldown, endurance. 5 points dual wield specialization. Blade Flurry. 5 points into sword spec. Everything else in combat, like at the bottom, the weapon expertise, aggression, and the adrenaline rush.
Okay.
You go 5 points into Malice, assassination, crit chance. 3 points into improved slice and dice. 3 points into ruthlessness. 5 points lethality. And 1 point relent. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Oh, relentless strikes. Yeah, no problem.
Relentless strikes. Yeah, 1 point in there, and then you have two combo points. You have 2 points to spend, and it depends what exactly you want to do. If you're progressing Molten Core, and all the boss fights are going to be long, and if you're not aiming to get high logs, you go murder. But I would go for improved eviscerate instead of the murder, because some of the bosses, like the murder, is not working for some of the bosses in the Molten Core. I would say for half of them. So I would go for improved eviscerate, because on every AoE fights, and that's 3 AoE fights in Molten Core, even 4. It depends how Golemac is going, how are you tanking that. So basically 4 and Major Dome. So 5 AoE fights, and Eviscerate will give you a lot of DPS. So if you're playing for logs, improved Eviscerate is better than Murder.
Okay, yeah, because obviously Molten Core, you've got a lot of elementals and stuff like that. Elementals, you don't get the bonus when you spec into Murder against elementals. So you'd go into Eviscerate and Molten Core. In Blackwing Lair, you would probably go Murder, right?
In Blackwing Lair, you're probably going to go Murder, yeah.
Okay, but you said in Blackwing Lair, you might have a totally different spec in Blackwing Lair. That's what it sounded like.
Yeah. In Blackwing Lair, instead of improved Eviscerate, you're going for Murder. And then in combat, instead of improved sprint, you go for improved backstab, and 1 point from improved dodge is going to improved backstab too. So you gotta have 3 out of 3 improved backstab.
Okay, very interesting. And I want to ask you a couple questions on that. But first and foremost, guys, this is the Molten Core build for rogues. I'm going to go ahead and link it in the chat right now. A couple of differences, obviously. It's a combat spec, but again, he chose the improved Eviscerate because Murder only increases damage against humanoids, giants, beasts, and dragonkin. And obviously, in Molten Core, you've got a lot of elementals to deal with, so it's not as beneficial. That's why I would improve Visk. But It's in the chat right now if you guys want to check out the Molten Core build for rogues. But let's go back to the Blackwing Lair build. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these points from Eviscerate, put them in Murder, and let me see if I can remove the 2 points here in Sprint. And you said put them into Improved Backstab.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not from Improved Sprint, from Endurance.
Oh, I'm sorry, Endurance. Okay. So took them away from Endurance, which reduces the cooldown of Sprint Invasion, and put them into Backstab. Okay. And,
and the Lightning Reflexes, the dodge chance, you go only for 3 points.
Okay, so remove 1 more point from there.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's fill out the rest of this tree. It looks like I need to put some points somewhere else in order to unlock the rest of the tree.
You go 3 out of 3 Improved Backstab.
Oh, 3 out of 3. Okay, perfect. Okay. So 3 out of 3 Backstab, and then going back to Dual Wield Specialization, I'm guessing?
Yeah, Dual Wield Specialization, Blade Flurry, Sword Spec, Weapon Expertise, Aggression, and Adrenaline Rush.
Okay. So why did I make these changes? Why do I go Improved Backstab instead?
Basically, there is the second boss in BVL called Veil. It gives you the infinite amount of energy. So basically what you do on that boss, you only use Backstab.
Okay. So, but this is specifically just Veil, right? But I keep this build for the entirety of BWL, because Veil is one of the more...
Yeah, you keep this build for entire of BVL because the only thing you're losing is basically the cooldown of your sprint and evasion, and you don't need that in BVL.
Okay, very interesting. So again, guys, you know, obviously you can re-talent, you can respec depending on how much gold you have. You can respec for different raids. This is the classic WoW Blackwing Lair rogue spec. I'm going to go ahead and link this in the chat as well. This is for Blackwing Lair specifically. Is there anything in particular for AQ40 or Nax that you would like to discuss as well?
It's pretty. I mean, in AQ you can use the same spec as a Molten Core, but you use a Murder instead of Improved Eviscerate, and you can keep that spec in Nax pretty much.
Okay. So for the most part, this looks like it's good to go. Again, the Blackwing Lair spec for rogues. We linked the Molten Core spec a little bit ago. But we could talk about talent specs all day, all night. There's so many different things and nuances you can do in vanilla with your talents.
I'm actually sorry I said the wrong thing. You don't go for Murder in AQ because on current servers, what we have right now, all the bosses in AQ, they are... I mean, you can see what they are. They're not humans, they're not beasts, they're not giants, they're like undefined or something. So you don't go for Murder because it doesn't work at all in AQ, as far as I know. So you go for Improved Eviscerate.
Okay,
but on actual classic, I don't know what's going to be on actual classic, like which type of bosses we're going to have in AQ. So we might have a Murder because some of the bosses look like beast. You know, the spider in AQ, it looks like beast, but it's not beast for some reason. So I don't know if Murder will work on classic. So we're going to have to test it out.
So you're saying the classification of certain mobs in AQ could be wrong on private servers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that it's wrong, but it's yeah. But as far as I know, right now it's like identified, so you don't know what it is, and I don't think Murder works.
Okay, interesting. That's just a very interesting note. Again, just some small differences between private servers and retail. We'll have to see how it turns out in the end, but an interesting observation. But from here on out, we were talking about gearing a little bit before, and I want to kind of go back to that now that we're done with the talents. Let's talk about Rogue Best in Slot. So, Pre-Raid Best in Slot is the set that you acquire before you enter raids, typically. You guys all know that. And LMGD actually has composed a giant list here for us, and I'll share the list with you guys in just a second. Do you mind, LMGD, if I share the Google Doc link you've sent to me with people in chat, or do you want to keep that between us?
Not all Google Doc. You can screenshot the pre-raid best and link that.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right. Let me go ahead and do that. I'll do that at the very end, actually, if you don't mind. Let's start off with let's go through every single slot, starting with your headpiece. What just walk me through one at a time. Pre-raid bis. What's the item? Where do I get it? And what's like another viable alternative in case it's not available?
Well, the head piece, the best you can get is the Mask of Unforgiven from Strat, from the boss called Unforgiven. Very easy to get because you can go from the side entrance and literally kill the boss almost instantly, only kill a couple packs. So you can chain farm it.
Okay. Mask of the Unforgiven for your helmet slot. Okay. And I'm just using the classic.wowhow.com database here. Give me the next slot. Let's go one at a time. Let's just hit these real quick. Neck piece. What do I get?
Mark of Forwarding. It's a quest item from a forwarding chain. That's basically the standard neck for all the warriors and all the rogues.
Yep, from the In Dreams quest line. Very, very sad quest line. All right, what's next? Shoulder piece.
Shoulder piece is 2-strike shoulders from UBRS. They're pretty much BIS, but it's hard to get them because the drop chance is really low and you're going to have a 10 or 15 man raid in UBRS, depends on how many people can go in, and it will be a lot of warriors and rogues. So if you don't have that, you should have a 2% hit chance shoulders called worm height shoulders, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you get them from the quest. Oh, I just deleted it. And you get them from the quest in Burning Steps.
Okay, so
So it's basically the same shoulders but without attack power.
okay, yeah, because True Strike very, very competitive. They drop off of Rend, I believe, and it's just like I said, like 4 classes need them. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like some druids might need them too with their play feral in your guild for some reason. Some retro paladins, hunters, so many classes want it. So yeah, gonna be hard to get it.
Okay. Fantastic, fantastic. So let's move on then to the cloak piece. Cape of the Black Baron.
Yeah, Cape of the Black Baron is the best in slot cloak till pretty much AQ if you're not farming world bosses.
And
That's a really good cloak.
What would you get off world bosses that would replace this?
Uh, I'm not sure how to say it on stream. It's called. Uh, I'm just gonna give you a link, okay? Because I don't want to pronounce the word on stream. Wait, how does it called even? Yeah, someone said in chat. Just
it's okay. Do your best. Do your best to pronounce it.
Okay, Pussy and Cape.
Okay.
All right. So that's the cape. It's pretty much best in slot till the Noxramus at least.
Okay, I got you. I got you. Very, very well designed by Blizzard, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, moving on. Moving on to the chess piece.
Well, it's not as bad as the mace from Elberus. Axe from Elberus.
Yeah. Don't pronounce that one. Forget that one. Okay.
Yeah. The cape of the Baron.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard to get too because you're gonna have like hunters and tank warrior might need it too for some reason. So if you don't have that, you can simply get the cloak of agility from auction house. It's simply the green cloak with plus 15 agility. That's the best cloak you can get from auction house.
Okay, yeah. It's just the standard. It's the of agility, right? Cloak.
Yeah, of agility.
Yeah. Okay, got you. Moving on to the chess piece.
The best in slot chess piece before the raid is Cadaverous Armor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's much better than anything else, so try to get that. But again, it's going to be hard to get because, you know, all the Retribution Paladins you're going to have in the guild, all those druids, they all are going to try to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. In the event that it's difficult to get, what do you recommend as an alternative?
Night Brace Tunic from, I think it's from UBRS, from the Summoning Boss. The second one, the Solokar something.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can get the chest from Last Boss in Scholomance with a 2% crit.
Okay. All right. Moving on to bracers.
Bracers depends if Darmol is out from the start or not. So basically, the best bracers you can get is bracers of the Eclipse from Darmol from Prince. I think it's Darmol West, the last boss.
Mm-hmm.
But if Darmol is not going to be out at start, Deep Fury bracers from Auction House are pretty much best in slot you can get.
Absolutely. And since we've done the last since the last class deep dive, we now have somewhat of a confirmation that Dire Maul is going to be there at launch. I know that Blizzard said they're still looking at changing up their release schedule if they see that community feedback warrants it. But I think now, if we were to take a guess, I would say it's probably likely that Dire Maul is going to be there at launch. So just keep that in mind, guys. If you watch the previous deep dives or any, and one of the reasons why we're going over pre-raid best in slot in particular. Pre-raid best in slot lists, typically, I don't want to say they're usually wrong, but there's so many variables that go into it. Obviously, like LMGD's already mentioned, some items like True Strike Shoulders, like, yeah, it's technically pre-raid bis, but realistically, the amount of time that you invest in farming it, is it worth it? Will you need it those first couple of Molten Core runs? That's why we go through these lists like comprehensively, because there's so many variables that go into play. Of those variables are the patches, are the raids available, are the dungeons available at launch. So that's why we're going into this in a little bit of detail here. But yeah, so Deep Fury bases, if Dire Maul is not at launch, but again, it looks like Dire Maul will be at launch.
Yeah, but it's still good to know because it's really good bracers you can get from Auction House if you are not planning to go Darmo for some reason, or if you go to Molten Core and you need bracers as soon as possible, you can just buy them from Auction House.
Yeah, okay. Got you. All right. From here, let's move on to the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty self-explanatory. You've been spending a week farming them. You have 800 leathers at this point. You got to go with the devil sword gauntlets, right?
Yeah.
So, out of curiosity, I totally forgot to ask about professions. But what professions do you obviously go skinning? But what professions do you go as a rogue while you're leveling and like just getting ready?
Well, if I'm leveling Rogue, I'm probably not gonna level solo.
Mm-hmm.
Because at Classic, Rogue is one of the worst classes to level. So I'm probably gonna be leveling with a 5-man group if I decide to play Rogue. I'm probably gonna play Rogue, but yeah. So I'm gonna play in 5-man group, and there might be someone else skinning, and you need only one skinner per group. So it's not 100% that I'm gonna get it.
Okay.
But if you're leveling solo, skinning is pretty much must have. You are not losing much time by skinning. If you're ahead of the curve, then you probably shouldn't skin anything because you want to keep the distance between the players. You can't waste like 3 seconds of skinning every mob, and it's just a waste of time. You can just borrow some gold at level 40 from guildies. So I don't see a point of getting skinning. It's good, but it's not necessary.
Okay.
It's not required.
So what do you go instead?
As a mage and as a rogue, I will probably go no professions at all till 60 because most of them are even a bit, but a waste of time. I want to get 60 as soon as possible without wasting any time of crafting anything. You might go like tailoring as a mage so you can craft bags while your group is like AFK, but if you're leveling solo again, you're never AFK, you're always moving. There is no point of wasting time. You can do everything of that on level 60.
Okay, interesting. So just being as efficient as possible, and again, that's the benefit of being in a predefined guild. Just being able to rely on your guildies to kind of help fill in the gaps and just make sure that everyone's playing as efficient as possible.
Oh yeah, first aid. Thanks, chat. First aid. Of course, you take
First-
first aid on every class. It's required. Yeah.
There you go. The more you learn. See, we're learning new stuff every day. Uh, so moving on to the belt now. You got a couple of options. Cloud Runner Girdle is the one you would go with.
Yeah, Cloud Runner Girdle is pretty much best in slot for rogues. Try to get that. And most of other belts are not as good, so I would try to get that for sure. And if
Yeah.
you're a Dagger Rogue, you go for Mugger's Belt from Thermal North.
Mugger's
Yeah.
Belt. Okay.
I think it's from Thermal North from one of the guards from Lost Guard.
So should I be going dagger or should I be going sword?
What do you mean?
You said if you have for dagger rogues, what should you be going ideally?
You should be going for swords at least at start,
Hmm.
because there are better swords which are period bis compared to daggers. The only the only way to go daggers is if you get double fell striker. If you know what fell striker is, you probably know how hard to get it. It's a 1% drop chance or even lower from UBRS ran boss, and you have to get two at the same time to make it better than swords.
Okay. Got you. Um, leg piece, just like before, it's going to be the Devil Sword leggings. Same explanation there. Basically, you have the leathers at this point. Is there anything you want to comment on leggings, or you just want to go move forward to the boots?
No, it's just devil swords, leggings, and gloves.
All right, perfect. Moving on to the boots. Mongoose boots for rogues.
Again, Mongoose boots is the boots that you craft. It's a recipe from Darmol North.
Mm-hmm.
So as you said, Darmol is going to be up at the start. So that's basically the best boots you can get. You can pretty much buy them.
There you go. Bind on equip, easy to get. Sometimes it's just, I feel like it's just easier. Like sometimes if you have two items, one of them's a BOE, one of them's a BOP, but the BOE is a little bit worse. It's still better to go with the BOE just because it saves you so much more time. You can focus on getting other pieces. At least that's my opinion personally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because we talked about stuff being available at launch, Tarnished Elven Ring.
Yeah, you get two of those. That's best in slot rings.
Yeah, and these drop off of King Gordok.
No, I think they drop from
The tribute, yeah,
run.
yeah, the
Yeah.
tribute. And these are pretty good. These are really good. Let's say for whatever reason they decide not to have Dire Maul at launch. What would you do instead?
Well, for boots, you go for Swift Walker boots.
Mm-hmm.
From Princess from PRD.
Okay.
And for rings, you go for Blackstone ring. I think it's from Marodon from Princess.
Mm-hmm.
And Painweaver band is from Uberes from Last Boss.
Okay. Painweaver band.
But you probably have to get both of those rings anyway because they are really good for PvP.
Let me ask you a question. This is kind of a
Mhm.
little bit off topic, but because we're talking about content release cycles, you as a rogue, let's say they do decide to go Dire Maul at launch. How do you think? What's your opinion on Dire Maul being available at launch? Would you like to see it at launch? Would you like to see it delayed? And how does it affect you as a rogue player?
Well, if we talk about period bis, I don't think it affects me almost anyhow. Like only rings and maybe bow. That's pretty much it, I think. But with Darmol being up on release, it's going to be much more easier to clean Molten Core for everyone because it's a lot of good gear for healers, insane gear for healers, good gear for casters, good gear for tank warriors. It's it's just a lot of gear which shouldn't be at launch at the start. So if they make Molten Core as easy as it is, as it was, then it means that Darmol will help a lot.
Gotcha.
Darmol will help a lot.
So it'll make the content a lot easier, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel strongly about it not being there at launch? Would you really like to see it not being there at launch?
Well, there is a problem with the World Bus too, and if Darmol is out at launch, that means that you have a World Bus. And I don't think on any private servers or on actual Classic you had Darmol. I mean, in some regions you had it on start, but most of the guilds were clearing their first Molten Core without World Bus at all. So with World Bus, I can't even imagine how easy it is, because as I said, you can clear Molten Core with a bit of gear on tanks, couple healers geared, and everyone else in full green gear. So if you add world buffs, it's going to be a lot much easier.
Yeah,
Molten Core is
absolutely.
just going to be a joke. If you don't wipe, of course, because if you wipe, you lose everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I completely agree. I just wanted to hear your opinion on it. And with that said, though, let's go ahead and move on. In terms of weapons, we have Dalren's.
Yeah.
Both Dalren's
Dal-
weapon. Yeah.
Both Dalrens is pretty much. It's you can argue about that, but I would say it's not better than the next set of items I'm gonna say, but it's pretty much one of the best. You should get it. It's probably best if you are not insanely lucky. Let me put it like this.
Yeah. So if you're insanely lucky, what do you get instead? Crowblade?
If
And
you're insanely lucky, no, Crowblade is not as good as Dolrens even. But if
okay.
you're insanely lucky, you get either a double Fell Striker, but that's you need to be insanely lucky, or you get Iron 4 and a Fell Striker.
What's the drop chance on Fell Striker?
1%, maybe lower. It
Okay.
like I don't know how it was back then, but on private servers, as far as I know, it's 1% ish.
Now I know there's a controversy on Fell Striker about the proc rate. Do you think the proc rate is wrong on private servers? Do you think it's? I've heard that it's like really OP on private servers relative to like what people remember it being. Do you think
I
that's?
don't think it's as OP as you think, but
Yeah.
maybe it was less OP on the actual Blizzard Vanilla.
Yeah, yeah. I got you. I got you. We'll see. We'll find out. I guess come classic. We'll see how it goes. And then finally, your ranged weapon.
Yeah. Basically, it depends on the setter's bow what kind of patch we have, because at some patch it had 7 agility and 1 hit, and on later patches I think it had 3 agility and 1 hit. If it's 7 agility and 1 hit, I don't think we're gonna get it, but still, if it's 7 agility and 1 hit, it's pretty much best in slot. But if it's 3 agility and 1 hit, you go for Calibrated Boomstick, the epic gun with the 14 agility from Auction House.
Okay. And if that's a little bit too expensive for some people, do you go Black Crow?
Uh, like it's pretty cheap, to be honest. It's like 50 gold. Some people are selling it for 20 gold because they think it's super bad because it's like low level. The speed is super fast. It's only level 43, so it's not hard to get it. I've never had troubles of getting it.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then finally, trinkets. Hand of Justice. Obviously, you get that from BRD and Black Hand's
Yeah.
Breath. Rune of the Guard Captain as third option. Royal Seal of Eldra Thalos. Do you want to comment on that at all, or it's pretty much good to go?
Well, you can swap some trinkets depending on your hit. For example, the hit trinket from Darmo is really good if you're crit capped. We can talk about crit cap like a bit later. But if you're crit cap, you don't use crit trinket, you use hit trinket. Then the trinket from Darmo gives you 10 fire resistance also, so you can use it on some bosses, especially on one boss fight. But we can talk about it a bit later.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And guys, one thing that we're going to be doing today that we haven't done in either of the deep dives before, and I think is very interesting. LMGD actually recommended it. We're going to be doing, or more specifically, he's going to be doing a step-by-step like breakdown of what to do during a fight in Molten Core, in this case Lucifron. So I think this is a really cool idea. I think kind of just explaining like how a high level player tackles a fight very specifically, exactly everything you do in every phase of the fight. I think that's a really good idea. And I don't know if I can speak on behalf of everyone in the chat, but I think that would be really, really cool to do that on all the bosses at some point. LMGD, if you ever want to make videos or something like that, I know I would watch videos like that, like a complete detailed breakdown of like what a high level player does in every single fight, Molten Core and Blackwing Lair, etc. That's really, really interesting, and I can't wait till we get to that part. But in order to do so, we'll have to move on. Thank you so much for helping us on the pre-raid best in slot list. Guys, again, pre-raid best lists are pretty much available everywhere online. The only thing that's good to kind of go over them is sometimes they're a little bit off, and sometimes again there's a lot of variables. Like some items are really expensive, some items have very low drop rate or very competitive, and some items release in different patches, which is why we go over it just to make sure it works. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on now to consumables. And again, like pre-raid biz, consumables are kind of mostly standard. I want to ask you, LMGD, are there any consumables? Like I just have a standard Nosta consumables list open here. Are there any consumables that you really want to stress or talk about? Some consumables that you think are very important that a lot of people neglect or anything like that?
Well, if you open the Nost guide, I don't think it has everything that you could use.
Mm-hmm. So walk me through what you would use.
There is a list of like 25, bro. Do you want to talk about each of them?
Talk to me about the most important ones.
Okay, basically, if you are hardcore player, I'm not sure if your guide includes that, but you can use Juju Flurry that increase 3% attack speed, which if I don't go like in detail and explain how it works, it will give you a chance to get one more auto attack on the boss.
Mm-hmm.
If the duration of a fight is more than 15 seconds, it's going to be a chance, not 100%. So it might be absolute waste. It has a chance to give you one more auto attack because it gives you 3% attack speed for 15 seconds. So you might get one more auto attack. Then what that guide doesn't say is Dragon Breath Chili, I think. So basically, Dragon Breath Chili is the food you can eat, and it's stacked with a grilled squid with a 10 agility food.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use both of them. Then you should use Immolation Oil if you're a hardcore player to get the maximum amount of DPS you can get.
And Immolation Aura gives you an AoE. Immolation Oil gives you an AoE like fire damage buff, right? Where people, it's like Immolation, the spell basically. You do fire damage, yeah.
Yeah. Then you can bring some boggling roots. That's the item from level 6 quest in Night Elf Zone that you can get only like 3 per character, so it's really hard to farm. It gives you +1 damage on all the auto attacks and all the attacks like overall. It just increases your damage by 1.
It's called Boggling Root?
Boggling Root, yeah.
I've actually never heard of using this before. Hold on, Boggling Root. And you said you only get 3 per character?
Yeah, you only get like 2-3 per character, depends on the drops.
Okay, really, really interesting. Is it like like you can only have a certain like amount in your inventory, or?
No, you can get any amount in your inventory as you want. It stacks like I think 20.
Okay.
In WoW had it shows wrong. I think it stacks maybe 10. It stacks 10 on 20. Yeah, don't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, that almost no one is using that.
Yeah, increases physical damage by 1 for 10 minutes. That's like uber hardcore speed run. Like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, imagine how hard to get it.
Dude, how long do you guys spend? Okay, how long do you guys spend per week farming consumables?
Well, almost nothing because we have gold to buy it. So basically, I mean, most of the players who were not stupid enough like me to like they just farmed enough gold at the start of the server so they can literally buy everything from auction house till the end of the server, all the consumables. That's basically it. But if you have to farm it, every consumable, you're probably gonna waste 5 hours per week at least.
And it's really interesting you bring that up. I've heard a lot of people say that speed, like leveling to max level, like really, really fast. It's like you're ruining the experience and you're wasting a lot of time. If anything, it seems like the faster you level at the start, the more time you save. Like just because you're able to secure, like I said, Devil Sword leathers, you're able to secure Black Lotus spawns and all this stuff, you can actually make a lot more gold in a lot shorter period of a time at the start of a server. And then later on, like you won't have to worry about wasting all this time farming consumables. Is that correct assessment?
Yeah, like it works like this. If you are the first guy on the server to hit 60, and you are the only guy, let's say, farming Devil Swords on a private server, with the prices we have, I don't know how it's going to be on Blizzard servers, but with the prices we have, with what we have right now, if you farm it solo, you get about 600 gold per hour, but it's not instant gold again. And then every day, this number will decrease because more and more people will start coming. You're gonna have to give them spots. You're gonna have to let them farm. You're gonna have to do something else.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
leveling speed will give you insane amount of gold per hour if you want to farm it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Um any other consumables that jump out at you that you think are really, really important or anything like that?
Yeah, basically, even on private servers, and it's fixed on private servers because I think it actually worked another way on Blizzard servers. You can use Flask of Supreme Power, you can use Greater Arcane Elixir, and Elixir of Firepower. So basically, you go for Spellpower, and it scales with a lot of consumables you use, and it scales with Shadow Oil. So basically, if you're absolutely hardcore player, you go for Flask of Supreme Power in the raid, you go for Elixir of Firepower, you go for Greater Arcane Elixir, you don't use poisons, you use Shadow Oil, and your spell power will scale with a separate charge, with Shadow Oil, with Dragon Breath Chili, and that's pretty much it.
Interesting. Yeah. So you still get the benefits out of the spell power, even though you're not using your poisons, basically.
Yeah.
Very
I mean,
interesting.
poisons are not scaling with spell power. They were at some point, and it got fixed. So now instead of poisons, you can use Shadow Oil.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
So, I mean, no one knows how it's going to be on Blizzard server. We might see at the start, before it's going to get fixed, we might see a full spell power rogues, a full plus shadow damage spell power rogues with like 300 spell power with 300 shadow spell power, with a flask of supreme power, with all the consumables, with like greater arcane elixirs, and they're going to just use the trinkets like from Darkmoon Fair that does magic damage, the nature damage, and they will use the Shadow Oil, and it will be insane amount of DPS.
Damn. Yeah. Like they stack so much damage, and actually, LMGD. So what am I looking at right now, guys, on the screen? LMGD's actually put together a consumables list, but one of the reasons why I like his list more than the list you guys see on the screen right here is he's actually broken it down into required consumables, consumables for hardcore players, and consumables for super hardcore players. Meaning, like, depending on how much you want to min max in vanilla. Would you guys like to see this list? And LMGD, would it be okay for me to post an image
Yeah,
of
you can
this
send a
list?
screenshot. It's fine.
Yeah, it's really great how he has it listed out, because like if you look at the list here in front of you and a lot of the consumables lists that are available, you just see people like listing stuff usually, and they have like a couple mandatory items at most, and it's kind of just like additional. He has it broken down depending just how hardcore you want to be. So, different levels for different players. But I'll post these after we're done today. Before we move on, anything else on the consumable side, LMGD?
No, I don't think so. We forgot to talk about enchants. We forgot about Bisgear, but we actually didn't put any enchants on it. So
okay, yeah, let's briefly go over the enchants real quick. Yeah, you want to just go through them real quick?
yeah.
All right.
So for helmet leggings, you use the Lesser Arcanium of Veracity. It's a quest item. It's pretty expensive, but you have to get it. Then you use 3 agility on cloak, plus 4 stats on chest, superior strength on bracers, that's plus 9, greater agility on gloves, plus 7, greater agility on boots. By the way, don't use movement speed on in Molten Core. In BVL, you can use movement speed, like it depends on your playstyle, but in Molten Core, go for agility, and weapon, if you're a sword rogue, you go for double crusader. That's basically it.
Okay. Very straightforward, very simple. Okay. Is there
But
ever a
then,
situation? Yeah.
if you are a spell power rogue, for example, on Blizzard, like at the start, I actually think that it's gonna work at the start before it's like before someone started using it super hard. It's probably gonna work because it worked in vanilla, I think. You put like double Spellpower enchant on your weapons, and you go like +30/+30 on each weapon, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the difference. Like Spellpower rogues sounds a bit crazy, but it might work. It might be twice more damage than the normal rogue
Has
we see
anybody?
right now.
Have you ever tested it? Has anybody ever tested it like legitimately, or is it just kind of like a meme?
Yeah, someone tested it on Nostarius and it actually works, but I think they fixed it pretty quick.
Oh, okay. So for classic WoW, you don't think it's gonna work, basically?
I think it's gonna work because I don't think they're gonna think about it when they're doing the class. Maybe they will. Who knows? But I'm definitely gonna test it out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But what I know on private servers right now, as I said, all the spell power scales with Dragon Breath Chili, Shadow Oil, and Immolation Oil. So you can stack that. You can abuse that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, then let's go ahead. Anything else on the consumable side?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right, let's move on to the really, really interesting stuff. So again, basically, LMGD actually approached me with this idea, and I thought it was really, really cool. Essentially, what he would like to talk about now is kind of give an example of what exactly you do in a specific fight on Lucifron in Molten Core. And the purpose of this is to kind of highlight just how much craziness can happen even on like a 20-second fight, and to see how much intricacies actually go into like the details of this fight. And then we'll talk about the single target rotation as well. Before we get into Lucifron stuff, do you just want to go over like some add-ons that you use? And the thing about
Well,
add-ons, the reason why I haven't talked about add-ons in my previous deep dives is because I think add-ons are going to change a little bit come Classic WoW. So when LMGD breaks down these add-ons, guys, think of them more on the functionality side. Don't focus so much on the specific add-on name, because there's a big chance that add-on just won't be there for Classic, just because maybe the developer doesn't like update it for Classic or anything like that. But yeah, you want to go through the add-ons that you use?
yeah, sure. Some of them will increase your DPS a lot, so it's pretty important to talk about them.
All right, let's go. Let's go for it.
Basically, the main important thing is bigwigs. Everyone needed in the raid, or deadly boss mode, DBM. That's pretty much. I think everyone needs it. You don't necessarily need it to clean molten core, but it will improve your DPS. Like you can optimize your abilities better. You can like you know where to use your potions. You know where the boss is gonna do that ability and this, and you can just optimize your movement speed, your movement pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Then the banana bar. It's not necessarily about molten core, but it helps in BL a lot in suppression room. When it's like 1 million mobs around you, you can target the marked mobs. So if raid leader is saying like go skull, you just press on banana bar and just go skull. You know, you don't have to mouse over it.
Mm-hmm.
The next item is buffalo, so you can check how many buffs you have, because in vanilla, if you are absolute tryhard and you have all the world buffs, you might get into some problems that you're not going to get any more buffs, because the buffs you can have in vanilla, I think it's 32 or 30, at least as it is right now on private service. So if you're going to get like 30 buffs, for example, you're literally not going to be able to mount up.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to get any buffs, so you can't mount, you can't buff yourself, you can't like use some abilities. It's really weird. So you gotta have that add-on, and it will show all your buffs, because the standard Blizzard one will show you only 16, I think.
Yeah, it's true.
The next important add-on is item rack. It's really important to switch trinkets and some other gear during the fight. For example, Nefarian fight, you can switch your cloak after he uses his abilities. Like when he lands, he uses a breath, and you should have an Onyxa cloak. And after he lands, you can just swap your cloak to improve your DPS. And then the trinkets, it's pretty much the same. You can use some unused trinkets, for example, attack power trinket, which is the quest reward from Exalted Quest in Cenarian Hold, I think. So, for example, you can pre-use that. I mean, you can use that during the fight, and then you banish swap item during the fight. And without item rack, it's going to be really hard to do that. because in vanilla, bosses puts you in combat almost instantly. So even if you vanish and if you don't have an add-on, you're gonna get in combat in like 0.3 seconds. So without an add-on, it's going to be pretty hard to swap the items, and this add-on will allow you to pre-swap the items. So as soon as you are out of combat, you're going to get a new gear set. So you just press vanish and it's ready, you know.
Yeah.
The next add-on you need to have is KTM, pretty much standard. Don't over aggro. Outfitter is pretty much for like mount gear for world PvP. Every time you mount, it's gonna automatically switch your gear for the mount gear, and then you can swap between like between your offhand, because in PvP you skull a lot. So use only like one sword or one dagger in main hand and use skull in offhand. So outfitter can help with that too. And it's pretty much item rack, but item rack will not allow you to swap like all 16 items at the same time, I think. And outfitter can do that. Then the next item is super macro. Pretty much standard for tagging. If you're gonna level, I'm not sure how it's gonna be on Blizzard Classic. If we're gonna have access to all the add-ons before the server start, I think we will, right? Because it's gonna be like alpha and beta, so we probably will have some add-ons.
Yeah.
So super macro is an add-on that will allow you to make a big macrosys, very complicated one. But Blizzard might put this add-on like literally inside the game, so it will be like a usual macro. I don't know how it's gonna work, but yeah, for tagging, for leveling, you should have it. I can provide an example. If you're leveling gnome and you go into the cave to kill a named mob that respawns like every 5 minutes, it's gonna be like 500 people staying there, you know,
Yeah.
at the start of the classic. So you gotta tag it fast. So super macro will allow you to tag the mob even before he appears. At least that's how it works in private servers. Like the mobs, you can tag them and even target them even before they appear on your screen.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, it's like a way to it gives you an ability to tag mobs very quickly, and specifically with super macro. And again, I said this before we started the add-on section, but again, these add-ons, guys, don't focus so much on the add-on names, but focus on the functionality. There's a very big chance with classic WoW that the macros that we'll be able to use are probably going to be the modern client macros. You probably won't need super macro because it'll, like LMGD said, it'll pretty much be integrated within the game. But things like, KTM, we might not have KTM, we might have Omen, or we might have another threat meter or something like that. So again, the add-ons, it's not so much, don't focus so much on the names of the add-ons, focus so much on what the add-ons do. Those are the add-ons that you'll probably want to look for in Classic. But I'm sorry, LMGD, please continue.
The next and the most important two add-ons, the first one is Swing Timer. It will show you basically the swing timer. I don't know how to explain it more clear. It's basically going to show you when you hit with your main hand and offhand. And I'm going to talk about it later, but you can get like plus 10% damage only by optimizing your swing timers.
Oh, wow.
So rogues without that add-ons, like if you will use it perfectly, you pretty much, if you're a horde, you're going to do like 10% more damage than anyone else.
That's actually
And the next, yeah, I'm going to explain it a bit later. And the next add-on is like energetic, or you can just use a simple Luna and it will show you energetic. It's basically the ability to know when you're going to get your 20 energy. So the energy, you're getting 20 energy per 2 seconds, I think. And this add-on will actually show you where are you getting it. Because your rotation on some short fights actually depends on when are you getting the energy tick. If you're getting energy tick at the start of the fight, completely different story at the start of the bar. Like if the energy tick is at the start of the bar and you're getting it in 1.5 seconds, you're using rotation number 1. If it's coming in 0.5 seconds, you're using rotation number 2. So that really matters a lot in short fights. If you want to push for meters, if you don't want to be a rogue who is doing 1k DPS on Lucifron and you want to push for 3k DPS, that's what you should do. But we can talk about it a bit later. And basically, the last add-on is just a DPS meter. You don't need to have that, but that basically will show you how far are you with the meats.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so now that we have all these add-ons, now that we have our consumables, now that we have our talent spec, our pre-raid best in slot list, our enchants, everything we need to enter a raid, we have entered Molten Core, and we're about to tackle Lucifron. So again, real quick, guys, in case you guys missed it before, LMGD is going to give us a step-by-step breakdown on how to approach Lucifron as a rogue. I think it's a really, really cool idea to see exactly what top-level players do on a fight-by-fight basis. It would be really awesome to see these like across every single fight in Molten Core, BWL, etc. I think that'd be really cool. But LMGD, the floor is yours. Please let us know how you tackle Lucifron, exactly what you do on a rotation by rotation basis. I'm very, very excited to hear it.
Some people are gonna hate me for revealing some secrets, but all right, only for you tips.
Thanks, man.
So basically, there are a big difference between the top tier of rogues and the low tier of rogues. Like some people, it might sound a bit bad, but some people, they're coming to you and saying like everyone in vanilla have like 2 buttons, it's super easy, and then they come in the raid and they just press 2 buttons, and you can see them DPSing like with 2 buttons, and that's what they do. But you can actually optimize so much that it's even hard to play ideally. So basically, if we take Lucifron fight, what you do, even before the fight starts, you have to press 5 buttons. So that's not really complicated, but you press sprint, you press evasion, you should be about 20 yards away from the boss. You press immolation oil, even before the fight starts. You press Juju Flurry, even before the fight starts, and you have to optimize all of that because some of these abilities are on global cooldown. So you have to know when the tank is going to pull the boss. So after you press that 4 abilities, you as soon as the combat starts, you press Restoration Potion. So why is it important to press it when the combat starts? The boss mechanics in Molten Core and in Vanilla overall, they work like you can divide the number by 5. So basically, the first ability that Lucifron does, it's going to happen in 10 seconds, in 15 seconds, and then 20, 25, So basically, if you press Restopod as soon as the combat starts, if you're going to get mind controlled in 10 seconds, you're going to... The Restopod is going to dispel the mind control, and you're going to go out. Because if you don't press it ideally, all the warriors, all the big bull warriors, are going to literally destroy you with the cleaves. So you gotta press it. You gotta press it like in the right spot. And then on the Lucifron, there is a debuff that increase the how to say it, like the waste of energy on your abilities. Like you're wasting twice more energy on abilities.
Yeah, it
So that's a
doubles your
curse.
yeah.
Yeah, it doubles your
Resource
like
requirement.
the resources you have to use. So basically, if you use Restopod, ideally you're not gonna have any debuffs on the boss at all. So that will increase your DPS at all. After you press all these 5 buttons, you have to press them really like pretty much ideal, and that's the easiest part of the fight. After that, when you come to the boss, there are at least 5 ways what you're gonna do. So if you're in super hardcore guild, it depends if the world buffs are up or not. Basically, it's all about the duration of the fight. So if the fight is less than 20 seconds, it means that the ads will die in 15. So you gotta pre-use Adrenaline Rush even before the combat starts. You use Restopod after, and after that you use Blade Flurry. So that's only the first way of what are we gonna do if the fight is 20 seconds. After that, after Blade Flurry, you see where your energy ticker at. So if it's at the start of the bar, there is one way to go. Is if it's at the end of the bar, it's the second way to go. So basically, if it's the start of your bar, if you're getting energy tick in 1.5 seconds, you should use one Sinister Strike, and then you use Slice and Dice. If it's at the end of your bar, you should use two Sinister Strikes and Slice and Dice after. Why it matters? It matters because we want to use Thistle Tea at 5 or at least 15 energy. So we never want to use Thistle Tea at 35 energy because that's a DPS loss, right? So basically, with what I said, you're probably going to have 5 or 15 energy, depends on your procs, depends on the proc from your talent that gives you 25 energy. So at some point, you're going to have 5 or 15 combo points, like after some Sinister Strikes. And then the main point is to use Eviscerate 3 times and not 2 times. So all the average rogues, all those rogues who are doing like low DPS on AoE fights, they are using it twice. So they're going for 5 common points plus 4 common points. That's completely wrong. You should use Eviscerate 3 times. You should go 3 plus 3 plus 3. So basically use 3 Sinisters, Eviscerate, 3 Sinisters, Eviscerate, 3 Sinisters, Eviscerate. And you should be able to use that while Blade Flurry. That's the maximum DPS you're going to get. And depending on the procs, some of your Eviscerates might have more combo points because after you use Eviscerate, you might have 1 combo point on the boss. So that's going to increase your DPS too. Well, that's basically it. The main goal of Lucifron fight is to hit Eviscerate 3 times while the duration of your Blade Flurry, and optimize everything else. And of course, you use Separate Charge at some point. You should hit all the adds. You should face all the adds and the boss. You should hit the boss from the back. You should optimize your Dragon Breath Chili. And during all this fight, you have to optimize your swing timer. So how do you optimize your swing timer? There is a 7% chance on Alliance and 27% chance on a Horde to refresh your swing timer every time you use any ability. So that's basically how Wind Fury works. Why it's 7% of Alliance? It's because Sword Spec 5% and Hand of Justice 2%. So on Alliance, it's not as worth as on Horde, and on Horde, it's actually super good to optimize those things. Basically, what you do is how Wind Fury works is when your auto attack swing go, like you hit with your main hand, the timer will start, the addon will show you that you hit with auto attack. As soon as you hit with auto attack, you should use Sinister Strike because it will have 27% chance on Horde to refresh your auto attack, and you're going to auto attack one more time. So during all those complicated rotations you use on Lucifron, it's more than 1 button per second. It's like, I mean, it's not hard, of course, but it is more complicated than 3 buttons. Than some, like, that's what some people are saying. While you're using all of those and optimizing all of your energy, optimizing Thistle Tea, optimizing your Blade Flurry, hitting the boss from the back, optimizing Restopods, Sappers, Immolation Oil, you have to optimize your swing timers, and it's going to give you, if you're a Horde, at least 10% more DPS than any other rogue, just because you're optimizing that. So that's basically it about Lucifron fight.
And you do all that within a 20-second period, basically.
And you do all of that with a 20-second period, yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And basically,
I don't want to waste.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste time and go in deep if the fight is like 25 or 30 seconds. The main difference is you use Adrenaline Rush and Blade Flurry only after your first slice and dice. So you don't use it before the fight if the fight is faster than 20 seconds. That's for AoE fights. That's basically the plan for AoE fights.
That's absolutely insane. Honestly, there's. Yeah, like you can really take it to another level. Wow. Honestly, I would love to see like a breakdown of like every single fight. That would be really, really cool. But yeah, it's very interesting. Like, you know, I never like swing timers in particular. That's something I'm very like familiar with as a warrior, but I I guess the one thing I didn't understand is why is it so important for rogues in particular?
What exactly?
Like optimizing your swing timers.
As I said, when you use any ability, so Sinister Strike, Eviscerate, like literally anything, you have a 28% chance to refresh your swing timer, so you're gonna hit once instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, your swing timer will refresh at the start again, and you're gonna hit. Like you're basically gonna get extra hit.
Yeah, well, I understand that, but I mean, like, how do you how do you game it so it's like better in your favor? I guess.
You basically have to use abilities as soon as you auto attack with your main hand.
Oh, okay, okay, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Um, no, that totally makes sense. That totally makes sense. Okay. That was nuts. Thank you so much for that breakdown, LMGD. Uh, so looking at what we still have left on the agenda, we have just the general rotation on the agenda. But before I'm thinking we just kind of open it up to Q&A right now. I know we're going a little bit longer than expected.
Sure.
Everybody in the chat right now. So if you guys joined halfway through, midway through, not at the very beginning, I'm speaking to LMGD right now, who's on the call with me on Discord. LMGD is a current player for Apes. He's a current rogue, or he's actually playing a mage for Apes right now. He's raid led for Progress. Rank 14 on his rogue, rank 13 on his mage. Nax cleared, one of the top parsers for the rogue class, and a very, very fast rogue leveler. If you have any questions pertaining to rogue leveling, rogue PvE endgame, PvP, any question you guys have in mind, please feel free to ask it in the chat. We'll go ahead and relay these over to LMGD right now. Did you kill... Bowie Mountain asks, did you kill Thrall yesterday? What's that about?
I don't think we killed Troll yesterday, but we killed a lot on this server. Basically, when you kill Troll, you are disabling Horde to get Blessing of Worship for 1 day straight. So the troll respawn is 1 day, so you can pretty much like at least make Horde raids more difficult.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be able to get that buff.
Interesting, interesting. Do you guys ever try to kill faction leaders before like you think a world boss is going to spawn? Like if it's in the world boss spawn window, do you try to go and kill faction leaders, or it's just not worth it?
No, it's not worth it. We only kill it when we want to fuck up with some guild that we don't like, or just to mess with the Horde. That's pretty much it, or just for fun, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
It's a troll, right? It's the biggest enemy of Alliance, so we gotta kill it. He gotta be dead, bro.
Listen, dude, Zug Zug, man, Zug Zug.
King's Honor.
General Mills 88 asks, is there any time to go subtlety spec as a rogue?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Is there any circumstance where you go subtlety as a rogue? Subtlety spec?
Oh, yeah. Basically in PvE, you don't do that. You put 5 combo. Why do I say 5 combo points all the time? You put 5 points there if you're playing at daggers in PvE. So that's pretty much all you use in PvE. You never go sub.
Okay. What about in PvP? You go sub or?
In PvP, of course, you go sub.
Mm-hmm.
But there are at least like 5-6 specs for rogue you can go in PvP. So it's really hard to talk about all of them. There is like improved sprint, improved kick, daggers PvP, daggers improved kick, like swords improved kick, and stuff like that. It's like a lot of specs. It all depends on the gameplay.
Absolutely, and I'd like to do PvP deep dives, guys, later on. It's just too much to talk about in just one show. PvE and PvP, it runs really long, gets really dry. So hopefully in the future we'll do a rogue PvP deep dive and one for all the other classes as well. In case you guys are interested. This is from Dragonaut. How you doing, man? He says, this is a question for LMGD. How will having versus not having spell batching affect how you will play a rogue in Classic?
Well,
yeah. You're familiar with the spell
all,
batching thing that's been going on, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
First of all, I mentioned before that it's hard to tag mobs with the Sinister Strike. So if they... I mean, it's going to be easier on Classic, I think, if the spell batching is in. But And then it's like, if Mage Blink, you can gouge him. If Mage Blink, you can still stun him. All these things are not gonna work, or probably not gonna work. So we're gonna see. But in PvE, it's not gonna matter at all. In PvP, it's just you need to be aware of that it might happen, that you might not be able to gouge the mage after the blink, or like stun him, or like kick cast, or some stuff like that.
Yeah. Are you personally? Do you feel strongly about spell batching? Do you feel like it should be implemented in the game? And by the way, real quick, I'm not sure if you guys caught this yesterday. I announced it yesterday. Announced it. I noticed it yesterday. I heard something yesterday, so I said it. Blizzard is currently looking into spell batching right now. So it's an issue. They heard it, and the Classic devs are looking into it to see if they can possibly replicate it in Classic. So they are. It's no longer an unknown issue. It's at their attention. They know about it. They're checking it out. So just for those that were really worried about Blizzard just completely like going over their head or something, they don't realize that it's a problem. They do realize it now. But yeah, you specifically, LMG, do you feel strongly about spell batching? Should it be in the game? Should it not be in the game? Do you have a strong position one way or the other?
Well, I don't think they even fixed it on live servers, because I was playing Rogue Arena like a month ago, and I was still able to stun the mages even after the blink. So he blinked and he's in stun. So I don't know how exactly they're gonna fix it if they can't even fix it on retail fully. So I don't know how it's gonna work.
Yeah, I think spell batching still exists on retail servers. It's just the window to take advantage of it is a lot smaller. I think
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah, on vanilla it's like 400 ms, and I think on retail it's like 10 ms or something. So it's technically still possible, albeit no long like very very unlikely. But we'll see what they do. I think they're going to be talking to us about it hopefully in the months to come. But it is on their radar. Shreubits asks, when do you replace the Devil Source set? How much hit do you go for after cap?
Well, first of all, there is no cap. The cap is like 8%, but it's only like 3% from gear. You're probably gonna have more than that all the time. But what I can say is hit is not that worth to go after you get like 12% or like 13%. So after that, you go for like crit attack power or something else. You don't go for like crazy 20% hit. You shouldn't do that. And what was the question one more time?
When do you replace the Devil Source set,
Oh, when
basically?
I replace the Devil Source, it's basically tier 1 hands from Gehenna's and tier 2 leggings from Ragnaros. As soon as you get them, you equip them. It's not even a big upgrade. It's like if you convert everything in attack power, it's like a 10 attack power upgrade. And then there are gloves from Lord Kazakh, the world boss. You should use them instead of tier 1 if you have them. So that's basically it. As soon as you get tier 2 leggings and tier 1 gloves, that's when you swap it.
Okay, perfect. I hope that answers your question, Shrew. Somebody at Vaste is asking, do we get to see the gear spreadsheet? Yeah, so the spreadsheets that I have, I'll take screenshots of what LMGD is cool with me taking screenshots of, and I'll post it in my Discord right after this. I'll do it before we end the stream. Don't worry about that. But I just want to get through as many questions as possible. LolDT asks, hey, what about the Seal Fate build after AQ?
I didn't use it in X. I'm not sure about that. There is no there is no verb side or bots or any calculations you can actually do on private servers, so it's really complicated. But I don't think you can go for it with AQ gear. I think you need to have Next gear at least.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I personally I've never tried it, so I can't really say. And no players that I know have ever tried it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think this is kind of a trolly question from Gropey. He says, ask him if it's true that he types down each global during a fight. I'm not sure. There's some errors there. Do you know what that's about?
I mean, I know who Groppy is, but I don't know what the question is. I mean, it's really hard to type down every cooldown you use on like AoE fights, because It all depends on the procs. You might get a 1 combo point proc, or you might get 25 energy proc, and it's not 100% that you get those procs, so it's really hard to type everything down.
Yeah.
Because it all depends on the procs, how much energy you're going to get from the procs.
It's true. Everything's conditional. Somebody asked this earlier. I can't find it now, but I remember seeing it. Oh, here it is from Pie Flavored. He says, "What's your most favorable matchup as a rogue 1v1?" This is more PvP, but it's all good. What's the classes you like to duel the most as a rogue?
Probably mage, because the chances are pretty much equal. It depends what gear too. Like the best PvP patch in vanilla is BVL patch, so pretty much like at least some BVL gear. That's the most balanced patch you can have. If we're not talking about 5k shaman's crits. But apart from that, that's the most balanced patch, and I feel like dueling mages is the most fun.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I feel the opposite as warrior, but it is what it is. You guys get the revenge for us. So Quick Slick Nick is asking a question. I don't really like the way he phrased the question, but because you were a raid leader, I think it's actually a very interesting question. Raid leading in vanilla is obviously very different than raid leading in retail. There's a lot more coordination just because there's a lot more people. So the entire atmosphere of raiding is very different between the two games. What attributes do you think are very good to have as a raid leader, and how do you personally raid lead guilds, especially the very high level guilds that you've played with?
Well, it really depends. If it's a chill run, not a speed run, you don't even talk that much because all people know what to do. You only coordinate some things, like for example, traps in suppression room. You coordinate which rogues are disarming it. You coordinate like stuff like that. You coordinate who's pulling. You tell when to pull, and you coordinate some things during the boss fights. But that's basically it. But on speed run, I'm not sure if anyone from Progress have the recording of speedrun because even I still don't have it. You pretty much talk all the time. So our molten core speedrun was like 17 minutes,
Hmm.
and I was speaking all the time. I don't think I ever. I think I was never quiet. So that's a lot of things you have to do because everything happens super fast, and you have to coordinate all of those.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, let's see here. People are asking about the patchwork clip. It's all
Oh
good.
yeah.
Uh, would you like to comment or no comment?
No comments.
It's all good. It happens. It happens. Uh, Stoneform or Escape Artist for PvP, asks Shrubits. We'll take a couple more questions, by the way, guys. But yeah, Stoneform or Escape Artist for PvP?
Well, I discussed it with Perplexity, and he prefers no. And I actually think that is better too. I like if I play Rogan Classic, it's definitely going to be gnome, I think, or orc. If we go horde, it's definitely orc. But yeah, I would prioritize escape artist higher.
Yeah, makes sense. Personally, I think so too.
There's not a big difference. It's just what you really want to do. If you think you're gonna face like more like hunters or rogues, you go dwarf. If you think you're gonna duel mages, and even warriors, escape artist is good too. But I
Yeah,
would go for gnome.
yeah, absolutely. Here's an interesting question from Whipdan. He asks, do you think LMGD that the values and scripts from the private servers are skewing the real difficulty of vanilla? In other words, do you feel like the private server experience is going to be different than the classic WoW experience?
Of course, it will be. I think that if we would have an old talents, it would be more difficult to clean molten core. Uh, I think talents is the biggest upgrade you're getting from the private servers because it's instantly patch 1.12.
Mhm.
But that's what we're gonna have on Classic too. So I'm not sure how hard they're gonna change the game, but it's obviously gonna be not the same thing.
So
Yeah.
all of these things we're discussing right now, most of the things might not even work on actual Classic.
Give me an example of something that you think won't work in Classic.
Won't work?
Yeah.
Mm, that's difficult. Pretty much everything. Like for example, for example, you're a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure like about rogue. There might be things, but I can't find an example right now. But for example, as if you're a warrior and you are using harvesting on a mob,
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to go away, right?
Mm-hmm.
But actually, on the private servers, you're gonna hit only once after you start running away. But on demo we had, you're gonna be hit like you're gonna get 2 or 3 hits at least. So the mobs are moving in a different way. It's absolutely not the same way as vanilla. They move like with 60 FPS, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
the difference between like 5 FPS and 60 FPS, that's basically the difference how the mobs move in on demo and on classic. So maybe the bosses are gonna move the same way, you know, so it's all complicated. But I can't find any rogue example I can give. Probably spell batching is really important,
Mm-hmm.
and that's pretty much it. Then the spell reflectors. So right now on private servers, you have to press spell reflector when the spell is still casting, like when the caster is still casting the spell. So when Death Coil is flying to me, I can't press it. It's not going to work. At least on Northdale and on Lightbringer. So you have to pre-use it. But on Blizzard servers, I think is actually going to improve, and you're going to be able to use the abilities and to like counter the abilities while they're flying.
That's actually
You know?
huge. Yeah, if that's the case, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So that's interesting. So somebody asked about Thunderfury. I want to find the actual question. It was disoriented and alive. I think he asked, "How do you feel about rogues getting Thunderfury?"
I would have it. I would love to have it. If Guild would give it to me, I would be happy. That's all I can say. But I think it's gonna be offhand for. I mean, at least as it was in vanilla, it was only. It was. Wait, sorry. It was actually main hand only till Nax. So you could use it as a rogue in offhand only with the Nax patch. So I don't know how it's gonna be on classic, but if rogues are gonna be able to use Thunderfury offhand, that's pretty good. That's pretty much bis till the end game.
Would you ever? But realistically, would you ever give a rogue a Thunderfury over a tank?
No, only when like 3 tanks. If 3 tanks got it, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. If some guy is like absolutely destroying, what I would do is if Rogue wants to get Thunder Fury, he can just make his own pug in like after the BVL. So like after the BVL, most of the tryhard guilds, if they have at least Thunder Fury, at least one Thunder Fury, they stop farming Molten Core at all. So they never go there again. Like when AQ is out, no one is farming Molten Core ever again. At least like try hard guilds. But I don't know how it's going to be on Classic. Maybe we will still farm it. So basically, you can just create your own pug and just go there and grab your Thunder Fury.
Yeah, just pug it, dude. Just pug it, forehead.
Yeah.
Um, there's one more question from Broke Boy Bands who asks, "Can you please ask LMGD about what he thinks about the Cadaverous set? It can be amazing with Cold Blood prep since stacking AP skills with Eviscerate. Only really useful as pre-raid best in slot, but still, is this a viable option to compete against other rogues?"
Does it mean all 5 items from Cadaver is set?
I'm guessing that's what he means.
It's not really good because I would say only chest and belt are decent enough to bring, but all other items are pretty much green, and they are super bad. So from 5 set, I think you're getting 2 hit from
y-
Cadaver's
yeah,
set.
2% hit. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically it's not worth of swapping 3 items for some green items.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's worth.
Yeah. The belt sucks on early atomization too, says Kazaki.
Yeah, belt is green at the start of the server too. But again, Blizzard is gonna be 1.12 patch, so I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, there's definitely still a lot to see what's going to happen with Classic. Itemization is still a question. We're not sure how they're going to do it. Somebody asked about front stabbing. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Basically, we don't, or LMGD doesn't think, and I don't think either, honestly, that front stabbing is going to be a thing in Classic. Probably won't be. Let's see. Somebody asked about rep paladins in raid. I feel like that's a nice way to end this off. Would you ever bring a rep paladin in a raid? LMGD.
No, thanks.
Okay.
No.
There you have it, dude. There you go. Speaking the truth. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. LMGD, thank you so much for joining us. I very much appreciate it. He took the time out of his very busy schedule to come talk to us, answer all of your questions and stuff. It's always fun to do these deep dives. I always feel like I get something personally out of it. I always learn a thing or two out of these things. I think it's really cool. Really love the Lucifron breakdown. Make sure to check out LMGD on his Twitch channel, which has been linked in the description below. And if you have any questions about the Rogue class, you can join his Discord as well, which I've also linked. But aside from that, fellas, have a wonderful day, fellas. I'll see you guys on Twitch. And as always, tips out, baby.